Hello, this is lesson 5.10, and we are going back to our original phenomenon with that little girl named Addie, and we're going to kind of compile everything we've learned so far about bacteria and antibiotics, and kind of compare what we've been doing in the simulation and in class to what happened to Addie, and kind of see if we can answer what's been going on so far. So it's a little break in our unit. Again, this is just kind of compiling what our current thinking is about why the antibiotics seem to stop working for Addie. You're going to discuss what you figured out from the different systems, meaning the simulation and from the video of Addie, and how what you figured out can be used as evidence to help us answer the questions in each row. So there are 6 questions total, and I have filled out some of this for you to kind of model what I'm looking for. So there's 6 questions, and you are going to fill out the rest of the table that hasn't already been filled out. So for each question, you are answering how our computer simulations have answered that question, and then also how our case of Addie from the video answered that question. And if you totally don't remember Addie, or you missed the video, go back to lesson 5.1 in week 12, and you will find the video there, and you can watch it again. It's a 12-minute video. So the questions we're answering, I'll kind of just go through each one and give you some hints for later on. The first one is, are there different kinds of bacteria? And what's your evidence? So you are going to answer that question based on both the computer simulation and in Addie. So in the computer simulation, are there different kinds of bacteria? Well, we know there's different colors of bacteria, and there's also different number of pores of bacteria. But every time I told you about that, I told you those are just variants. So there's just variations. They're not actually different species. The bacteria still reproduce the same way. They're the same shape. So there's no real evidence that there's different types of bacteria in our simulation. So it says we just had one kind of bacteria in the simulation. Our evidence is in the simulation in which we didn't call the bacteria different names. They all had the same basic shape. They all had the same reproductive rate. There were different colors, but that doesn't mean that they were different species. So for that, we're just going to say no. In Addie, though, we know that there were 2 different types of bacteria. They mentioned it in the video, and we talked about it right before we went on Thanksgiving break. So if you don't remember, I don't blame you. That was a long time ago. But we know that Addie got the infection at the park. That was staph. And they called that one staph, or they called it MRSA, methicillin-resistant staph. And then later on, she got another bacterial infection from that ECMOS machine. That one was Stenotrophomonas. So she got 2 different types of bacterial infection. So that's our evidence. We answered that question. Question 2 says, are there different varieties of bacteria within the same kind of bacteria? So we know in the human species, there's different varieties of people. There's tall people, short people. There's different variation in skin color, hair color, eye color. So is there variety in bacteria within the same type of bacteria? And what makes a certain variety become a certain variety? What's your evidence? That second question means what makes a certain variety become a certain variety. So what makes you tall? Well, you're tall from your parents. So in the simulation, we know there's variety. There's 4 different varieties. There's different color. There's purple, green, brown, red. There's also different variety in number of pores. And so I explained that there. Is there different variety in Addie? So we know she got staph or MRSA. We also know she got Stenotrophomonas. But in staph, is there different types of staph? And I'm going to give you the answer right now. In the lesson right before we left on break, I mentioned that some staph are resistant to bacteria, but some are not. So that would be a variety. That'd be a variation. We have resistant staph and non-resistant staph. Same with Stenotrophomonas. We have resistant Stenotrophomonas. It's resistant to antibiotics, so it can't be killed. And then we have other that actually can be killed. All right. Number 3 asks, did the bacteria's environment change, or did the bacteria move into and out of the environment in different ways? And you guys can read what I put for the simulation. That one might have been a little tricky to answer. In Addie, did the bacteria move? Did it move from the playground to Addie? Did it move in from Addie's lungs to her blood? Did the Stenotrophomonas move from the ECMOS machine inside Addie? So I think that kind of answers that question and gave you some evidence there. Were antibiotics added to the environment? From lesson 5.9 part A and B, so what you just did the past 2 days, you definitely added antibiotics to the simulation. Are the antibiotics and the bacteria interacting? What did you see in the simulation? Did those antibiotics do something to the bacteria? In Addie, were antibiotics added? Do you remember from the movie? Was she given antibiotics? Did it do anything to the bacteria? What's your evidence? I will put the link. I'm not telling you this now. You'll have it. But I'll put the link to the video up here so you'll see it when you open this document to watch it again if you don't remember. It's only 12 minutes, so I suggest you watch it to get some of that evidence. Were some of the bacteria dying? What's your evidence? So were they dying in the simulation? What's your evidence? Maybe comparing the amount of bacteria you started with to what you ended with. Were they dying in Addie? If they were dying in Addie, that would mean that she was starting to get better. And how are the bacteria reproducing? What evidence do you have of resources such as food or space affecting the populations of bacteria? What's your evidence? So we definitely saw in the simulation that the bacteria can reproduce. We even checked the box that they did. Were they limited in how many they could have? Definitely in the simulation. Think back to a couple lessons ago, how they were limited in their growth. And in Addie, were they reproducing? This one might be a little bit harder, but think just about the process that Addie was going through. She was getting sick, take antibiotic, she'd feel a little bit better, and then she'd get sick again. So why was she getting sick again? Were those bacteria reproducing and multiplying? Was there any sort of resources in Addie? And if you can't answer all the questions, then you can say that as well. All right, so again, I suggest you watching the video to help you with this evidence. And this is just a little pause so that we collect everything that we know and learned so far about bacteria. All right.